Blind date sparks incredible reunion. Discover how a brother's touching plan revealed hidden love. In the heart of Maplewood, where the trees donned their fiery autumn hues, life was simple yet filled with grit and love. Jake, a 28-year-old mechanic, was more than just a man with calloused hands. He was the very embodiment of sacrifice for family. The looming threat of foreclosure on his parents' home, the home that sheltered countless childhood memories, clung to him like a weight he couldn't shake. While his dreams of designing car masterpieces lay forgotten, his heart ached with an unfulfilled longing, mirroring the rusting cars crammed in the garage. But change was on the horizon. Tom, Jake's older brother, a local veteran with an endless stockpile of stories, watched his brother's silent struggle and couldn't sit idly by any longer. With a heart full of brotherly love, he hatched a plan that ignited a flicker of hope: a blind date for Jake with Sarah, the captivating niece of a wealthy businessman whom he once served alongside in the military. As the date approached, Jake's stomach twisted in knots. He stood before the bathroom mirror, running a hand through unruly hair, fighting a tide of anxiety. What would a girl like Sarah want with a guy like him? He shook off the doubts and headed to the local diner, a quaint spot where everyone knew your name and laughter echoed against the checkered walls. When Jake laid eyes on Sarah, his breath hitched. She was radiant, styled, and poised, but there was something familiar in her expression, a yearning shimmer behind her smile. Their conversation sparked like a match in the dark, bringing forth laughter that bounced off the diner's walls. Jake's awkward charm provided a comedic backdrop to Sarah's composed exterior. They exchanged stories, each word weaving a tapestry of connection, a thread that neither could ignore. But just then, as Sarah smiled coyly and recounted tales of her youth, her truth tumbled out like a card from a deck. She was the niece of the very man who held the power to save Jake's family home. A cold draft swept through Jake, slicing the warmth they had built in those moments. Betrayal and confusion filled his heart. Everything felt twisted, darkened by a sudden sense of shame. Tom, sensing the impending storm swirling around Jake's heart, stepped in like a lighthouse guiding a ship in turbulent waters. He urged Jake to confront his feelings and the stark reality they faced, a reality built on the foundations of social class and expectations. Tom reminded Jake of the values they shared, values that mattered more than wealth or status. "You need to fight for what you've found, Jake," he urged. That evening, a family gathering unfolded in their cozy home, laughter mingled with the scent of comfort food. The tension hung heavy in the air as Jake's heart raced at the thought of Sarah. As they locked eyes, realizing their shared struggles and desires, everything came to a head. Confessions spilled out, vulnerability stretched across the table like a threadbare cloth holding together a fragile connection. Chuckles faded, and awkward silences punctuated brimming emotions. Would Jake let his pride hold him back? Could Sarah break away from her suffocating family expectations? As their eyes met, hope flashed, taunting yet enticing. With the stakes raised and hearts racing under the weight of expectations, the pivotal question loomed large: could they bridge their chasm of differences, or would they walk away, leaving behind what could have been? In that moment, everything depended on a choice that could reshape their lives forever. Jake sat in silence, feeling the room spin slightly. The faces of his family blended into a blur, laughter muffled as the weight of Sarah's revelation settled heavily on his chest. He glanced at Tom, who offered a reassuring nod, and it ignited a flicker of determination deep within. "Do you love her?" Tom's question echoed in Jake's mind, reverberating against the chaos of his emotions. He had met Sarah only hours ago, yet her presence had ignited something dormant in him, a yearning, a hope. He couldn't let the walls of social expectations confine what had just begun to bloom. Across the room, Sarah's eyes searched for him, filled with uncertainty yet undeniably bright. For a heartbeat, the world faded. She was more than just a name linked to her family's wealth, she was real. Every laugh they had shared, every memory they had unearthed, it mattered. "Jake, it's not that simple," he muttered to Tom in an almost pleading tone. "What if she's only with me because of some obligation? What if I just end up hurting her?" Tom leaned closer, the gravity in his voice clear. Sometimes, real love defies expectations, man. You'll never know if you don't try. Take a step toward her. With a shaky breath, Jake rose from his chair, the wooden legs scraping against the floor. Heart pounding, he crossed the room that felt both too small and infinite at the same time. Each step felt monumental, the weight of fear and hope blending into a powerful cocktail that fueled his courage. When he reached her, Sarah barely spoke, her eyes wide, waiting. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice steadier than he felt. Sarah nodded, her expression shifting between relief and apprehension. They moved outside, the chill of the autumn evening wrapping around them like an uncomfortable blanket. Amid the rustling of leaves and distant laughter, they found a bench that looked over the town square, illuminated by the soft glow of street lamps. "Jake," she started, but he interrupted, the words tumbling forth. "I don't care about your family's wealth," he said, his eyes locking onto hers. "The moment you walked into that diner, everything changed for me. I just didn't know how to say it, how to believe it." Her eyes glistened, and he could see vulnerability laid bare. "But what about my uncle? He can save your family, but what does your heart say?" Jake interrupted again, leaning forward, urgency consuming him. "Does it tell you to run home, back to expectations? Or does it urge you to explore what's happening between us?" The air seemed to thrum between them, heavy yet electric. Sarah's gaze dropped, deep in thought, and in that moment, Jake felt a surge of hope. "I'm scared," she finally admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "Scared of what this could mean, of what my family will say." "Me too," Jake admitted. "But I think we owe it to ourselves to find out. Can we let go of their expectations just long enough to discover what's really here?" The silence hung like a tightrope, the question dangling between them heavy yet exhilarating. As Sarah slowly lifted her gaze, the corner of her lips turned upward, a tentative smile lighting up her face. "I think I want to try." Just as they began to bridge that gap, the quiet was shattered by the shrill ring of Sarah's phone. She flinched, her expression turning serious as she glanced at the screen. The name flashing there was instantly recognizable, causing a sense of dread to creep back in. "It's my uncle," she said, hesitating. Jake's heart sank as he read the worry etched on her features. This was not the moment he'd anticipated, and the weight of the world felt like it was crashing down around them once more. Could they really move forward if family obligations tugged at their hearts? As she stood, torn between duty and desire, Jake felt the future slip through his fingers as doubt crept in once more. Would they find a way to embrace their connection, or would the chains of expectation drag them back into the shadows? Sarah's hand trembled as she stared at her phone, her thumb hovering over the screen. Jake watched her, the warmth of their recent moment giving way to a chill. The call felt like a dividing line, a reminder that the world outside their fragile bubble still demanded its due. "Maybe you should take it," he suggested hesitantly, though his heart screamed for her to stay. "It could be important." Sarah's expression shifted again, caught between two worlds. She took a step back, as if the distance could help her decide. I need to know what this means for us. If I answer, what happens next?" Jake's throat tightened. His mind raced, trying to think of anything to convince her to stay. "We can face it together. Whatever it is." He could see her mind working, tangled between loyalty and this new spark he felt. Finally, she inhaled deeply, and with a decisive nod, she pressed the screen. "I'll answer it, but let us keep this connection alive, okay? I don't want to lose what just started." The phone's ringtone sliced through the evening air, and Jake could almost feel the tension wrapping tighter around them both. "Hello?" she said, her voice only half an octave above a whisper, as if afraid to disturb the burgeoning connection that still lay firmly between them. He watched as her expression shifted from concern to one that could only be described as wary. The conversation flowed without any indication of what her uncle was saying, but the furrow in her brow deepened. I understand," she murmured, nodding, her expression now a mask of anxiety. "I'll be there." Sarah ended the call, glancing at Jake with eyes that reflected uncertainty mingling with sorrow. "He wants me to come home. Something about family obligations and you're going to go?" Jake's heart felt heavy, he could barely mask the disappointment crawling through him. She bit her lip, clearly conflicted. "I have to. It's not just about me anymore, it's about my family. They depend on me. If I don't, it could ruin everything." "Or you could ruin this whatever this is," Jake breathed, his frustration spilling over. "All that would change if you choose to stay. Don't you want to figure us out?" Her gaze flitted to the ground, then back to him, filled with unspoken fears. "Jake, I want what we have. But if I walk away from this, I walk away from my family. I can't do that to them." In an instant, the distance between them felt insurmountable. Jake's mouth opened and closed, searching for the right words to bridge the gap, but they felt just out of reach. "But maybe in choosing them, you'll miss your chance with me. Do you really want to live like that, always wondering?" The air hung heavy around them, thick with unfulfilled possibilities. Sarah's body seemed to sway slightly, caught in the current of their conversation. "What if I find a way to make both work?" she whispered, hope glimmering just beneath the surface. "Just promise me you won't let them decide for you. You deserve this. You deserve us," Jake urged, battling against the rising tide of despair creeping into his voice. The streetlights illuminated their faces, casting flickering shadows that danced around them, symbols of dreams yet unformed. Sarah nodded slowly, a decision brewing in her eyes that Jake hoped wouldn't fade. Then came the sound of footsteps approaching, quick, impatient strides that disrupted their moment. Jake turned instinctively, his stomach sinking when he saw Tom making his way toward them, worry etched across his features. "Sarah," Tom called, urgency in his tone. "Your uncle's waiting for you. It's important." As Sarah looked from Tom back to Jake, tears threatened to spill from her eyes. The tension spiraled, hope and fear clashing with each other. "Go," Jake finally said, heartbreaking. "Just go. We'll figure this out." And as she stepped away, the space between them felt impossibly vast. Jake clenched his fists, knowing he had just handed her a decision that could change their lives forever. But would she choose him or the weight of her family's demands? The moon hung high, a witness to their fragmenting reality, and in that moment, all he could do was pray. As Sarah swiveled around to join Tom, Jake caught her glance, a sliver of hope. But uncertainty hung thick in the air. Was this goodbye, or a pause before their paths would intertwine once again? The night pressed on, full of questions that begged for answers, leaving Jake staring into the dark, grappling with the unknown. Would they ever reclaim what was slipping between their fingers, or had fate dealt them a cruel hand? Jake stood still as the evening deepened around him, the world outside fading into a blur of shadows and faint sounds. Each heartbeat thudded loudly in his chest, drowning out the clamor of thoughts racing through his mind. He felt like a ship lost at sea, with nothing but the distant glimmer of hope to guide him. The look on Sarah's face lingered in his memory, a mixture of longing and desperation, a reflection of his own turmoil. He turned slowly, one foot at a time, making his way to the park bench that overlooked the street. The night air was cool, brushing against his skin like a soft reminder of reality. The streetlights cast an amber glow, revealing the emptiness around him, the quiet echo of laughter fading in the distance where people shared moments he could only dream of having with Sarah. His phone vibrated in his pocket, cutting through his brooding silence. It was a text from his younger sister, Mia. "Hey, can we talk? I need your advice." He sighed. She had a knack for knowing when he was struggling, even miles away. Texting was the one thing that made the miles feel less lonely, like having a little piece of home with him. With a hesitant breath, he opened the message and began typing back. "Sure. Something up?" He leaned back against the bench, letting the cool metal ground him while he waited for her reply. After a brief pause, Mia replied, "Can't say much here." "You at the usual spot?" Jake glanced around, suddenly aware of the familiar surroundings. The park had always been their go-to meeting point when they needed to talk. It became a sanctuary for whispered secrets and heartfelt confessions. A place where two siblings could share their burdens without judgment. "Yeah, I'm here. What is going on?" He texted back, his heart heavy with anticipation. Minutes passed, but it felt like hours. Finally, Mia's response lit up the screen. "I saw something today that shocked me. You might want to brace yourself. It's about Sarah." Jake sat up straight, the gravity of her words hitting him like a truck. "What do you mean? What happened? You remember when Sarah went away for that internship last summer? Well, she didn't go alone. She went with someone from our town." His chest tightened at the implication. A rush of jealousy and confusion washed over him. "Who?" Mia hesitated. "I don't have all the details yet, but I think you need to see for yourself. It might change everything." Jake felt a mix of fear and something else, a flicker of determination. "Just tell me where to go," he typed back, his mind racing with 1,000 possibilities. "Meet me at the coffee shop in half an hour. I'll explain everything." He slipped his phone into his pocket, the weight of Mia's revelation heavy on his heart. Did Sarah really leave? Was there more to the story? The possibility of life without her pushed into his thoughts, igniting a spark determined to fight through the growing darkness. He stood up, shaking off the lingering sadness, and took a deep breath. The night air was quieter now, as if the world itself was holding its breath along with him. He walked purposefully, each step echoing with the hope that maybe, just maybe, he had a chance to reclaim what had slipped through his fingers. As he rounded the corner toward the coffee shop, his heart pounded in his chest. Questions crowded his mind, and he knew he needed answers soon. What had Sarah chosen? And why would Mia's news change everything for him? He pushed through the door, the bell jingling above him, and scanned the cafe. His gaze landed on Mia, who looked as worried as he felt. Whatever she had to say would either shatter the little bits of hope he clung to or ignite a new fire he never saw coming. And as he approached, he could hardly suppress the thought nagging at him, what if the truth was more complicated than he expected? Jake took a seat across from Mia, his heart still racing. The coffee shop buzzed with muffled conversations and the hiss of the espresso machine. He could barely focus on the surrounding chatter, every ounce of his attention fixed on his sister's pale face. "Hey," he said, trying to pull her out of whatever spiral she was caught in. "You okay?" Mia met his gaze, her eyes wide and uneasy. I don't know how to tell you this, but you need to understand Sarah. There's something else happening." As she spoke, Jake's stomach dropped. He clenched the table's edge, waiting for the words that felt like a weight pressing down on his chest. "Remember Adam? That guy who hung around with us in high school," she continued, her voice barely a whisper. "I saw them together, she was with him." The air thickened around Jake, and he felt like he was being suffocated. Adam? The same guy who had always joked about his feelings for Sarah back then. It seemed impossible. "What do you mean together?" he asked, a creeping dread enveloping him. They were getting coffee, Mia explained, her fingers twisting nervously around her cup. "I saw them at the park. They were laughing, touching each other's arms and, it was obvious there's something going on." Every word Mia spoke pierced through Jake, creating a tapestry of confusion and pain. How can this happen? They had no contact all summer. She told me how lonely it was. She might not have wanted to hurt you, Mia said gently, but Jake could see the fear in her eyes. She knew this news was tearing him apart. Why didn't she tell me? His voice tightened, a mixture of betrayal and disbelief coursing through him. I thought we were honest with each other. I don't know, Jake. Mia's brow furrowed, her concern palpable. What I do know is that you need to confront her. Get the truth. Don't let this fester. Jake nodded slowly, his mind racing. He could feel grief mixing with righteous anger. You're right. I can't wait any longer. I need to hear it from her. Just then, the door swung open and the bell jingled brightly, pulling Jake's focus away from their conversation. Sarah stepped inside, shaking off the night's chill, her cheeks flushed and her hair tousled, just as he remembered. It felt surreal, he wanted to either run to her or hide from her at that moment. Mia! Sarah called out, a bright smile illuminating her face as she spotted them. Jake's heart sank. The sight of her brought up memories he fought to suppress, the laughter they had shared echoing in his mind. Hey, Sarah, Mia replied awkwardly, the tension palpable as Sarah approached their table. Jake avoided her gaze, focusing instead on a solitary sugar packet. He felt the weight of 1,000 questions on his lips but no strength to voice them. Jake, Sarah beamed, her expression changing slightly as she noted his silence. I was actually looking for you. Can we talk? The world around him seemed to halt as he met her gaze, the warmth in her eyes colliding with the cold reality tumbling in his heart. We need to talk, yeah, he said, swallowing hard. Time felt suspended, the space between them charged with unspoken words, both hopeful and devastating. As Sarah sat down, he felt the looming moment of truth inch closer. The truth he feared and craved, the truth that could alter everything between them. Would she admit to the past summer, to Adam? Could he bear to hear her answer? He took a deep breath, summoning the courage he needed. Sarah, there's something we need to discuss, but before he could finish, a loud crash erupted from the corner of the cafe, diverting everyone's attention. Jake's heart raced, the moment slipping out of his grasp as their eyes shifted toward the chaos. What other surprises waited for him tonight? And in that instant, he wondered, would the truth be revealed amidst the turmoil, or was this just the beginning of an even darker journey? The crash echoed, shattering the moment like glass hitting the floor. Jake's heart pounded in his chest as he turned to see what had caused the commotion. A table had toppled over, sending chairs sprawling and coffee cups flying. The shop's patrons turned their heads, murmurs of surprise filling the air like a mosaic of worries and whispers. Is everyone okay? A barista rushed over, her voice strained as she tried to help an older man who had slipped on a puddle of spilled coffee. Jake's attention drifted back to Sarah, who was now wide-eyed, the smile that had filled her face moments ago vanishing as she looked between him and the chaos around them. It was as if they were trapped in two separate worlds, the hubbub of the cafe and the silence that loomed between them. Jake, Sarah said, her voice suddenly serious, but still laced with confusion. He took a moment to exhale, feeling the weight of his next words like a molten lead ball in his stomach. The noise around them faded away, and all he could focus on was her. Sarah, he began, his voice barely above a whisper. I heard something. I need to know, about you and Adam. The brightness in her eyes dimmed just a shade, replaced by something close to anguish. She opened her mouth, but before she could respond, the older man finally regained his footing, waving off the barista's help. The tension snapped back to them, and he felt time speed up. Jake, please, she said, leaning closer, her voice urgent. Can we just? He held up a hand, sensing the desperation in her words. You were seen with him, Jake stated, each word falling like a brick. Were you together? Her expression wavered, a mixture of fear and sadness crossing her face. I didn't mean for you to find out like this, she finally admitted, her voice trembling. It was just coffee. I thought, what did you think? His voice cracked, the mix of emotions boiling over. That I wouldn't care? That I wouldn't be crushed? Jake, she reached out for his hand but paused, her eyes searching his for understanding. It felt like every heartbeat was limping slowly away. I had no idea you'd feel this way. I didn't want to hurt you. An ache formed at the base of his throat. It was too raw, too much to absorb in that bustling cafe filled with laughter and joy. The smell of coffee, usually comforting, now felt bitter and oppressive. But instead of lashing out, he caught a glimpse of her vulnerability, the way her lip quivered, the faint sheen of tears pooling in her eyes. Sarah was still the girl he cared for, the one he'd laughed with, the one he thought shared the same dreams. So it meant something? He asked, feeling the ground shift beneath them. This coffee date? It was just a moment of weakness. She burst out, frustration merging with despair. I needed someone else. He interrupted, the sting of betrayal sharp enough to break him. Someone who wouldn't look at me like I was broken. She yelled, breathing heavily, her own pain spilling over into the air between them. Mia watched silently from the sidelines, her mouth pressed into a thin line, aware that things were spiraling into places she didn't want to go. The world around them blurred. Jake felt something inside him break. Do you want to be with him? The silence between them was deafening, each second stretching out painfully. He felt deeply unmoored, the sense of trust crumbling as he waited for her answer. I don't know, she admitted, her voice smaller now. It's not that simple. Jake took a step back, suddenly needing space, wanting to escape the hurtful truth. The chaos in the cafe faded into the background, but the weight of her words only grew heavier. Just then, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He hesitated to check it, but something nagged at him, an instinct that urged him to look. It was a message from an unknown number. We need to talk about Sarah, it read. You have no idea what you're getting into. With a sinking feeling, Jake clutched the phone like a lifeline. What more could he possibly uncover? As Sarah's eyes drilled into him, the uncertainty loomed. Did he want to know what else was going on behind the scenes? Was it time to unravel more than just what he saw in front of him? There was no going back now. He needed answers, no matter the cost. Jake felt the weight of the phone in his hand, its screen a small window into a world that seemed to twist and turn beyond his comprehension. He wanted to throw it aside, to drown out the noise of betrayal, but the message pulled him in like a tide he couldn't resist. Sarah, his voice faltered as he looked into her eyes, a storm of confusion swirling in her gaze. Her expression hung between fear and something deeper, as if she were waiting for the right moment to tip the balance. The energy shifted around them, the cafe continued to bustle and chatter, but here, everything stood still. Who is this person? He finally asked, his voice steady despite the raging tempest within. How do they know about you? She frowned, biting her lip. I don't know, Jake. It's complicated. Complicated. That one word felt like a door slamming shut. Did she really think that helped? The urgency in his heart grew sharper, almost painful. What's complicated? You go out for coffee with another guy, and now someone thinks it's their place to tell me? What do you have to hide? Her eyes glistened, and for a moment, he thought she might break down. It's not about hiding anything. There was a flare of frustration in her voice as she stepped closer. It's about me figuring things out for myself. I thought I could figure what out? He interrupted, unable to keep his voice from rising. Do you want to be with him? Just stop. She exclaimed, her own voice wavering now. The cafe's noise faded into a dull murmur, their chaos a distant memory. You don't understand. It's about feeling lost, about needing to know if I can be happy again. I thought if I reached out. She trailed off, looking away as a tear slipped down her cheek. The sight gutted him. Beneath all the confusion, he could see the pain she carried, the search for solace that seemed to lead her here, illuminated under the harsh lights of the cafe. I don't want to push you away, Sarah, Jake said quietly, his heart aching for her. You're my friend. You matter to me. But if I'm not enough? She swallowed hard, looking back at him fiercely, like she was baring her soul. If it turns out I can't be the person you need? Then we fix it. Together. He took a step toward her, instinctively reaching out, though the distance still felt vast. I don't want to end us over this. The honesty in his voice hung thick in the air, palpable, yet he felt the invisible barrier between them tugging tighter. As he searched her face for reassurance, his phone buzzed again, and they both flinched. Maybe you should read it, she suggested, her voice soft like the first hint of dawn. Tentatively, he opened the message, his pulse racing. I know what's really happening with you and Adam. Meet me, and I'll show you. What the hell? His voice dropped, barely a whisper now. Who is this? I don't know, Sarah stammered, her brows creasing with worry. Can you hear yourself? You're entwined with a guy, and now anonymous texts are telling me I have no idea what's really going on, Jake pressed, frustration bubbling over. This could get dangerous. We need to figure this out together, she said, reaching out as if to close the rift forming between them. He hesitated for a moment before pulling her into his arms, feeling the warmth of her small frame against him. If they were going to navigate through this storm, they would need each other's strength. But as he held on to her, he couldn't shake the feeling that someone else was pulling the strings, lurking just beyond their line of sight. Let's talk to Adam, he finally suggested, stepping back. I need to know how deep this goes. Do you really think that's a good idea? Sarah's voice dropped, anxiety creeping in as her eyes went wide. Damn it, Sarah. You deserve answers. So do I, he declared, the urgency overwhelming him as he wrestled with the fear of losing everything. As they locked eyes, the world fell away and a new determination set in. Okay, she whispered. But if I can't face him, if it's too much, then we'll figure it out together, he interrupted firmly. They took a deep breath. Poised at the edge of something larger than their hearts could fathom. Would they be ready to confront the reality waiting just round the corner? Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Something told him their conversation with Adam was just the beginning, and in the back of his mind, he knew the stakes were higher than either of them realized. As they stepped out of the cafe together, the world blurred back into focus, but he couldn't shake the thought. What lay ahead could change everything they knew or break them apart forever. The cold air outside wrapped around them like a shroud, and Jake felt the rush of uncertainty thrum beneath his skin as they walked in silence. The streets were bustling, people rushing past, but the world felt muted, as if it were just a canvas for their worries. Sarah kept glancing at him, her breath hitching whenever their eyes met. Jake, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. What if this ruins everything? He paused, turning to face her. Her vulnerability hit him like a wave. I don't think it will, he reassured her, though his own heart pumped with doubt. We need to know the truth. Is the truth worth the risk? She countered, her brows knitting together as she looked down at her shoes, scuffing one against the pavement. Sometimes, he said, stepping closer, the truth hurts, but it also frees us. We need to know what we're dealing with. I'll be right there with you. He reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers. The warmth from her palm sent a jolt of comfort through him, grounding them both. As they approached Adam's apartment building, an unsettling weight settled on his chest. Would Adam be as innocent as Sarah hoped? Or was there more to unpack? Just remember, Jake said, trying to break the tension. No matter what happens in there, you're not alone. We're in this together. Together, she echoed, her voice gaining a touch of strength. They exchanged a determined glance before climbing the stairs. Each step felt like a countdown to an inevitable confrontation. When they reached the door, Jake's heart raced. He lifted his hand to knock, hesitated, and then finally rapped on the wood. The sound echoed ominously in the silence, matching the unease curling in his stomach. The door swung open, and there was Adam, looking as casual and carefree as ever. His smile faltered when he saw the tension etched into their faces. Hey, what's up? Can we come in? Jake asked, his tone more firm than he intended. Sure, Adam replied, stepping back to let them in. There was a heaviness to the air that made the mundane setting, a simple living room decorated with posters and a half-empty pizza box, feel charged with unspoken words. Thanks, Jake said, trying to sound casual. We have some stuff we need to talk about. Adam looked between them, brow raised in confusion. What is going on? You both look like you've seen a ghost. Jake shot Sarah a quick glance, urging her to say something. But she didn't move, her gaze locked onto the floor. His heart sank. She was struggling. Look, Adam, we found out about the messages. Adam's expression shifted into one of surprise. Messages? What do you mean? Jake felt his hands tighten into fists. The ones from that person who knows Sarah, who texted me about you. We need to know what's really happening. I don't know anything about that, Adam replied, the confusion on his face morphing into something darker. If this is about Sarah reaching out for help, then I was just being a friend. The air thickened as Jake pushed forward. A friend? Is that all this is? Or is there something more? Sarah finally lifted her head, her voice trembling. I need to know, Adam. What is this really about? If you care for me, you should tell me the truth. The intensity of the moment was electric, charged with the potential for everything to change. Adam looked between them with a flash of emotion, but what was it? Anger? Guilt? Or something else entirely? Sarah, he began, hesitating as if grappling with the weight of her question. Just tell us. Jake urged, his patience wearing thin. Don't you dare lie to her. A thick silence enveloped them, the heaviness so thick Jake felt like he couldn't breathe. Okay, Adam said at last, his voice steadying. If that's how it's going to be, then I'll tell you everything. Jake felt the ground shift beneath him, anticipation swirling with dread. What truth was about to unravel before them, and would it bind them closer together or tear them apart forever? Adam took a deep breath, his eyes darting around the small room as if searching for a way out. There was a glimmer of vulnerability that Jake had never seen before. It was unsettling. You both deserve to know the whole story, Adam finally said. He hesitated again, biting his lip, as the weight of his words settled in the air between them. It started a few months ago, he began, his voice barely above a whisper. Sarah, you remember when you were going through that rough patch? I wanted to be there for you. So I reached out to someone who could help. Jake felt Sarah flinch at the mention of her difficult times. She was fragile, and this was a sensitive subject. Jake tightened his grip on her hand, offering silent support. Who did you reach out to? Sarah asked, her voice small but firm, demanding clarity. A mutual friend, Adam replied, looking down, as if ashamed. They said they could help you, to support you. But, it got complicated. The messages became more personal. I didn't mean to overstep. What do you mean more personal? You mean you've been talking to this friend? Jake interjected, his voice tight. Did you lead Sarah on? Was that the whole point? Adam's eyes flashed with irritation. No. That's not it at all. I cared about you, Sarah. I thought I was helping. Helping or crossing boundaries? Jake shot back, his patience dwindling. He could feel the room growing smaller, their collective breath stifling as tension surged. Jake, please. Sarah's voice cut through the air. She was trembling now, the stress radiating from her like heat. Adam, are you saying you had feelings for me during that time? That's what this is about? Because I was confused, and I thought you were just being a friend. Adam nodded slowly, his gaze never breaking from hers. I did start developing feelings. I thought maybe we could become something, but you were hurting. I didn't want to complicate things. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as she processed his confession. Jake's heart caught in his throat. The weight of their moment felt almost unbearable. "Why didn't you just tell me?" Sarah choked, her voice thick with hurt. "I needed honesty. I've been struggling with so much," and she couldn't finish, a silent sob escaping her lips. "Because I was scared, okay? Scared of losing you. Scared of ruining everything." Adam's hands were shaking now, the tremors visible. "I thought if I just supported you as a friend, we could be okay. But then I saw that person reach out to you, and I panicked." "So, you thought hiding this would solve everything?" Jake's tone was ice-cold now. "You put all that weight on her while playing the friend?" "I didn't think it'd go this far. I just wanted to be there for her when she needed it most," Adam yelled, the frustration in his voice echoing in the living room. A heavy silence fell again, a battle of emotions swirling inside. Jake looked at Sarah, her face illuminated with grief. She needed clarity, a sense of control over her life again. "I don't want to be caught in the middle of this," she finally said, her voice steadier now, though the tremor remained. "Adam, it's not about you trying to protect me. It's about what's real and what's been thrown at me." "What do you want, Sarah?" Adam asked, desperation creeping into his voice. That question hung in the air, heavy with expectation. Jake waited, heart anxious as he watched Sarah wrestle with her thoughts. "I just want to figure it out. First, I need to know if this is truly about us, or if you were just trying to distract me from the truth." As that moment of silence stretched, tensions rising like a flame, would they find a way back to each other, or had Adam's secret shattered everything? Jake felt fear creeping in, a shadow darkening his hope. Whatever came next hinged on Sarah's heart. And as Sarah looked between the two men in her life, her next words would decide the direction of all their futures. Would she choose to confront the emotions tangled around her? Or was there a deeper truth waiting to be uncovered? Sarah's voice shook as she spoke, the air heavy with anticipation. "I want clarity. I need to understand who I am, not just in this moment, but in my life. I want to know what I feel about you, Adam, and Jake," she said, her eyes darting between them. Jake felt relief mix with anxiety. This was a turning point. They were faced with a chance for truth, but would they seize it? Adam began, taking a step forward, but she held up a hand to stop him. The pressure in the room thickened. She was regaining her footing, reclaiming her voice. "No, Adam. I need you to acknowledge that our bond can't just be a crutch for my pain." She inhaled deeply, conviction shining in her eyes. "You reached out to help during my struggles, but that can't become something else mixed in with secrets and half-truths." Jake watched as Adam took a breath, as if preparing for a confrontation. "I didn't mean for things to get out of hand. I wanted to care for you without losing you," Adam replied, his voice defensive but softer now. "Caring doesn't mean hiding," Sarah countered, her voice steady. "I needed someone to guide me without mystique, not someone who would twist my feelings or be a weakness." Jake felt his heart swell. Sarah was emerging from the shadows of confusion, illuminating the path ahead. She was choosing to confront the complexities of their relationship, and the bond they'd built. "Sarah," Jake said, wanting to affirm her strength. "You deserve to find your path, even if it means confronting us both. I want that for you. But I also hope there's a place for me in it." She turned to him, surprise flickering in her eyes. "I want you both in my life. But it has to be real, not dictated by fear or obligation." "I'm willing to find that reality with you," Jake told her, sincerity spilling from his words. "Just know that I'll stand by you as you navigate through these feelings." Adam stayed silent, his expression clouded. The tension lingered, but the air felt lighter. "What about your feelings for me, Sarah?" Adam finally asked, looking at her with raw honesty. "If this is about finding happiness, where does that leave us?" Tears glistened in Sarah's eyes. "I can't ignore what we've shared. But I need you to understand that love must first arise from the truth of who we are, and what we need. Adam looked crushed, yet there was an understanding in his gaze that Jake hadn't expected. Then maybe I do need to step back. I don't want to be your shadow. I want you to shine. A tremor rippled through the air. Jake squeezed Sarah's hand, feeling her pulse quicken, the warmth between them electrifying with hope. They were starting to forge a new pathway together. This had the power to change everything. Sarah, Jake said, searching her face. Whatever happens next, let's redefine what our connections mean. You don't have to shoulder this on your own. Her nod was barely perceptible, but in that small movement, she affirmed a spark of courage. The night may have felt tumultuous, but it was shifting not towards an ending, but a new beginning. Adam stepped aside, his expression a blend of resignation and acceptance. I care about you too, Sarah. I just want you to be happy. We can still be friends, she hesitated, the bridge extending across their tangled emotions. But only if we can navigate those feelings honestly. Jake felt a sense of admiration for her bravery. Together, we can figure this out. Just promise to communicate. Their surroundings felt lighter, a sense of shared purpose bubbling up in the space where uncertainty once thrived. The path ahead wouldn't be easy, but the fog began to lift. As they shared mixed glances, resilience and gentleness mingled within each moment. Jake wondered where it would lead them. He leaned closer to Sarah, a sense of renewed longing blossoming between them. You're not just a connection to my heart, you're someone I want to cherish, he spoke softly, grounding their engagement further. Their world may still have questions hovering over it, but Jake felt a conviction forming. This was their moment, one ripe with possibility. As they turned toward the door to step into the unknown, they were united by one key realization: love required transparency, a willingness to step into vulnerability without fear. With hearts entwined, they stepped outside together, leaving behind the weight of uncertainty as they prepared for a future where choices would shape their lives. The path lay wide open, and Jake silently vowed to honor whatever opportunities would bloom from it. This was not just the end but the beginning of defining their stories together. If you're feeling the call of transformation, I urge you, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and show your love. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. It means the world to us. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to share this message. Your support can make a difference, and every action matters. Don't wait not even one more second.